Hey, welcome to our usual Friday night live stream. Sorry we missed last week, schedule conflict and whatnot, but we're back. At least a few of us are. I'm Jean, as always, and I'm joined by Clint and Danny. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Doing pretty swell as well. Mind the heat. Minus the heat.
There is that. So, got a few things to talk about tonight. Not really all that much going on, but there are a few little topics here and there. But I did want to kind of fulfill a conversation that we were just starting to have, and I thought, wait, no, let's not finish this in private. Let's finish this on the show because we should embarrass ourselves and each other. We're talking about, and I wonder if any of you out there are watching as well. You can get in touch with us on Twitter, Shonen Beam at Shonen Beam on Twitter. The most embarrassing swag you have, the most embarrassing manga or anime, because I know it's kind of related, gear that you have, merchandise, figures, clothing, whatever it is. My camera's set up here. You guys always see. I've got my little like One Piece figurines and assorted a couple other figurines. Got a couple Ava figures, Fisted and North Star figures in there. Got a variety of stuff. What kind of embarrassing swag do you guys have?
I have a full box set of Comic Party.
Wow,
I do have that.
right off the bat. Okay.
I have quite a number of things actually, and I actually have them here to show people. So when I went to, I believe they were having a signing for an artist. I forget who though. They're for New York Comic Con, and they had it at the local Kinokuniya, which is an import store or export store. But basically, they were having us stand in line, and they were hawking. Viz was hawking their new Neon Alley service, which is the live streaming 24-hour, 7 days a week channel they have for consoles and whatnot. And they're giving away a bag with a lot of free merchandise, or well, cheaply made merchandise. And I received this little trinket here, which is a fan, a Naruto fan. And I mean, you probably can't see it here, but the image quality on this fan is rather poor. It's kind of weird. And other than this, actually, I mean, this one is actually kind of neat. It was also this here poster, which is to celebrate, I believe, Naruto selling 10 million or something along those lines. And also this incredibly cheaply made. Let's see if I can get this thing. Naruto headband.
Oh my God,
I mean, it's not even. It's literally just printed on.
that's
On
so
just
bad.
lined cloth. It's so silly.
Which
And a
which
while,
one is more embarrassing, the cheaply made all cloth one, or the one that actually has a metal part on the front of it?
Ooh.
I'd say the one that I actually paid for, which is the next thing that I'm actually going to show, which is actually not related to this at all. I got this a long time ago when I first went to my first con, Anime Next, it's a number of years ago. Actually, back when I actually liked Naruto, I bought this thing,
Oh wow.
which
Wow.
is Toby, before he was a terrible character, back when he still had a mask.
Back before he became the final boss.
Yeah, back when he was just comic relief. But yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff, and amusingly enough, it's all Naruto stuff. Um, they also had a couple of posters as well, but I can't seem to find them. But yeah, those are pretty much the things that I have, and it's embarrassing because it is Naruto of all the things.
Yeah. That kind of like became more embarrassing because of the direction the series took. Like it probably wasn't that embarrassing to you until the last few years.
Yeah.
It got worse and worse. Um, I can't. I mean, I've got a few different things. You just like everyone makes like a few early mistakes. Like, I mean, everyone gets into going to conventions and whatnot for a reason that later they end up regretting. And for me, I can't say I regret it because it got me into conventions, which then got me into meeting a bunch of people that I still consider friends and people that have introduced me and opened doors for me and have given me opportunities. So I can't ever say that like I regret this, but I do have to point out that the entire reason that I started going to anime conventions and opened this entire world in front of me in the very first place was to go to OhioCon, which is a convention in Columbus, Ohio. Go to OhioCon specifically with the purpose of meeting Fred Gallagher, Piro from Mega Tokyo. So I have autographed copies of Mega Tokyo volumes.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not my worst one though. I have a strategy every time I go to a con, which is the big draw of most cons is the huge dealer room, especially when you live in a place. I mean, Dan, you mentioned Kinokuniya. We don't have anything like that out where I've been living, Ohio or here in North Carolina or anything like that. Um, so the big draw for me has always been the dealer room because, I actually have the opportunity to not just buy something off the internet, but actually buy it in person. And this is amazing. So my strategy every single time is, all right, I will wander, but to begin with, whatever the hot new series is of the time, if or even new arc, for example, like One Piece getting into Water 7 or something like that. My goal for this year's convention is to scour the entire room, do a full circle of the entire room and look for merchandise from that. And then I'll go back through and wander. And I did that a few different times. I got Reborn was the thing at the time. I got some Reborn stuff. Or indeed, like Frankie was just introduced in One Piece, so I got Frankie gear or whatnot. Best one ever, most embarrassing thing ever. D.Gray-man used to be good. I'd like to remind you of that. D.Gray-man used to be good. The Alan versus Noah fight, really, really awesome stuff. That entire arc leading up to the whole thing, really, really great. I scoured the entire room. There was literally only one piece of merchandise that I could find, and so desperate was I to actually own a piece of D.Gray-man merchandise that I purchased a Ukanda compact mirror. I have a makeup mirror featuring the girliest man in the girliest man series in Shonen.
Well, that's definitely something.
Yeah.
It also kind of makes me, makes you more aware of the way they actually merchandise these things. The fact that a Ukanda mirror can exist. I mean, certainly, obviously, because it's going towards the audience that it's targeted for, but also that they would actually allow such merchandising to go in that direction. It kind of just reminds me of quite possibly the best example of this in the past, and also some where current is Evangelion. But if we're going to talk about other things, there's also Shokugeki no Kyojin, which is really has a lot of merchandise that is almost actively acting in spite of its own what the actual series represents, because it's just so comically light and goofy. There was an ad about razors, which had like a pretty guy getting shaved by all of the all the core, and they were, instead of using the blades, they were using razors, and it's very ridiculous, and it doesn't seem like they care so much that it goes against the themes of the actual series, especially considering that it's so widely popular now.
One thing I've noticed about Japan is that if a series is popular, it has the ability to sell McDonald's.
Yeah. I think he muted himself.
Lost Jean for a second, I think.
No, I have something urgent to take care of. I'll be right back with you. Just go ahead and keep going.
All right. So yeah, I mean, and if we are gonna talk merchandise and whatnot, it's I actually ever wondered this myself, whether it's actually negative that it actually goes into that direction. I mean, people don't seem to mind that much about Shokugeki no Kyojin, despite the heavy themes of it, that they can buy like a little, let's say, simplest example would be a cell phone locket of like the Colossal Titan in like a chibi mode, which he never appears in the series in that way, and it's actually just it's supposed to be a very imposing character, yet it doesn't seem to lose that effect in spite of the actual merchandise surrounding it. which is something I always found very strange. I mean, considering that it doesn't seem to be doing damage to the series itself, it's only going to get worse and worse in terms of, how much these things are going to be milked.
Yeah, I think I've seen like a Colossal Titan like full body nylon suit available for purchase that you can wear and look like the Colossal Titan.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the kind of the thing. Like, if you see these things all around you, and if the Colossal Titan has become so much of a joke outside of the manga, then how exactly does the manga or in the series try to make him take itself seriously if everything outside of the series itself is treating it as a joke?
You always got to wonder about that. I mean, like even it doesn't happen to the same degree over here with our movies. Like you'll see tie-ins whenever new movies come out from Hollywood, like in the U.S., but not to the same degree as like anime in Japan. I don't think it doesn't get pushed onto like everything. Like every single surface is covered with it.
Hmm. Oh yeah. So, and
Yeah,
also
sorry
one.
about that, guys.
Oh, he's back.
You fairly distracted for a while. There's quite a large spider in my room right now.
I guess that would do it. That would put you out of commission for a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't actually been able to get it. It kind of tucked away somewhere, so I'm gonna half pay attention, but I don't want to leave you guys in the lurch here. Yeah, sorry about that. Just we've been having some problems here lately with unwelcome little critters. Anyway, so swag. I think we kind of touched on swag enough, don't you think?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I myself am not that much of a collector. If I find, I mean, as you can see, a majority of the things that I have are actually just free things that I received, and that seems to be what I generally lean more towards.
Right.
I mean, I often wonder whether I actually want to get figures. I kind of do, but at the same time, I don't really feel too motivated to buy any. Though there are a lot of cool, like, you know, cool figures that every once in a while that I see on the internet. And like the merchandise, it's kind of everywhere, so I kind of don't know where to start. And it's kind of a deep rabbit, so I've kind of avoided that for a majority of my life so far.
It is a pretty big one. I mean, I've got you guys can see like the big figure shelf there. It's a rabbit hole that I have explored fairly extensively, but I don't know. It's pretty neat. I mean, it's just the problem is it never ends. Like you jump in and you see like, oh, there's this kind of figure and that kind of figure. Oh, that's all really cool. And then you even if you are in a position, if you're fortunate enough to be able to get like, oh, I got the entire set of this line of figurines. I got like the One Piece Portrait of Pirates, etc. Well, like whatever the line of figures is. Um, then there's like 10 new ones that come out, and then another several that come out after that, and whatnot. It never actually finishes. But anyway, I think we should finish on this one and move on to, I don't know, just little points and notes and whatnot. Again, be sure to get in touch. We are gonna. I just wanted like a little light topic to start on here. Um, but actual stuff to talk about. Danny, you mentioned before the show when I was looking for things to talk about that the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure omnibus editions are going to be released in America. Is that right?
All right. Right, so like this weekend, or weekend very loosely, since Anime Expo is like a 4-day con now. Um, Yesterday they did announce, Viz announced that they were going to start releasing, or basically they laid out their plans for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure going forward. And hold on, let me just get it up right here. It actually interested me because it seemed like from what I saw of their actual convention report, and also the little I saw of actual pictures, the crowd there seems to really respond well to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They even made everybody do the pose. I'm pretty sure it was a Joseph pose. But I mean, like, I'm really glad to see that it's actually, picking up steam, even though it was an unwanted property to get licensed for a long time now. The many issues surrounding the actual licensing things, the names and localization. But yeah, so basically, from the sound of it, they're going to be releasing all of Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency like in omnibus form, um, and the and I guess for the future going forward, they're going to start doing that for 2015, I believe. They're going to start with Battle Tendency and Phantom Blood.
That's pretty cool. It's a bit surprising given that they were so reluctant to do it for so long. I mean, it's certainly not like all of a sudden JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a popular series. It's been a popular series for a very long time. Granted, now it has the anime and the support that the anime has garnered behind it. But yeah, it's all been down to the music rights issues, and I do wonder, do we know yet how much will be changed actually? How many names will be changed?
That's a good question. I actually am not sure, but I'm pretty sure we can, get a hint of that based off the video game that came out. The JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Battle Royale All Stars, or I forget the title of it, but it came out a while ago, and it essentially had like a majority of the cast, and there were name changes to them. I'm gonna get that one up. It'll take a second. But I mean, I would imagine if they were going to, take anything from it, that they would have to just use those official names that were already, given by the video game.
Right.
Right. Okay. So there were, based off this list here, there were no changes to the names in Part One. Uh, a lot more manageable. Part Two, Santana is now Sant Viento. Logins is Logs. Messina is Machina. There's an H, I guess they have there. Part 3 and Part 3 also there's very few, like Oingo Boingo is now Zenyatta Mondata. Terrence T. Darby is Darby Younger. Like it kind of just, Polnareff is John Pierre Eiffel. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
That's that word.
Oingo Boingo rights are just so hard to come by. Everyone wants a piece of that these days.
Well,
And
the weird thing to me is that they then changed it to another musical reference because Zenyatta and Mondata, it's a reference to the Police album Zenyatta Mondata, and I don't I don't know. This is complete generalization on my part, but I for some reason get the feeling that what's his name? Danny Elfman would be a little bit more amenable to any namesake use involving him than Sting. Sting doesn't really strike me as that type.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Uh,
I
I
mean,
mean,
if
yeah.
that's all they changed, though, that's not that bad. I mean, I am really a stickler for artistic integrity and leaving things as they originally were. But JoJo's is certainly a special case in that regard because he is deliberately just plucking names from existing things. So
Uh-huh.
I
Well,
mean, it's
there's
weird.
definitely a lot more names that I didn't go into. It seems to cover all the way through Part 7.
Okay.
Um, and for the sake of time, I didn't list all of them because there are actually quite a number of changes on past Part 3.
Mm,
I'll actually send you the list right here
okay.
so you can take a look
And
at
I'm
it.
sure also viewers can just check that out on their own. I didn't mean like give me every single one. I just meant like,
Hmm.
ballpark it. Will there
Yeah.
be a fair amount? And it seems there will be a fair amount. Kind of look at the list here. Oh yeah, that's a fair amount. The further you go on. But then again, you said part one no changes. That's because part one didn't really have any names to be changed. Part one was actually original at that point, except for what, Speedwagon?
Yeah, Speedwagon.
I mean, very little outside of that. I mean, I know Dio technically, but that you can't copyright just a name that's actually a name. So that one's not too bad. I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for it. It's cool that it's picking up. It's cool that it's gaining popularity. It's a great series. I really hope that the manga picks up in popularity as much as the anime has. I have to say I never continued watching the anime after the first episode because I felt of that first episode, and I know I'm judging on one episode, and maybe it's corrected already, and maybe this is totally off base, but after one episode, I felt like the pacing was just breakneck. It was way too fast to actually do everything properly that needed to be done. I felt like the best way I was able to sum it up at the time is that it didn't really feel so much like an episode as it did a teaser of what happened last time. It felt very much like a last time on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and then a very quick summary of everything that happened, except that's the actual episode.
Hmm. Well, I mean, about that, it seems like it seems to just be that they only had 20 some odd episodes to do both Battle Tendency and Phantom Blood, and I guess they felt that they could cut a lot of the fat off of, or I wouldn't call it fat, but they could truncate Phantom Blood uh, as opposed to doing that to Battle Tendency. And as it stands now, the Stardust Crusaders is looking to be a very long adaptation. Like they actually seem to be going for more than 26 episodes, or more than 52 even. It's still unsure, but from the sound of it, it may very well go a very long time, which is great because that series, as we know, is also very long. Has a lot of little moments in it, uh, and if they choose to localize all of it, I guess that shows how much how confident they are in the series as a whole. Or maybe it could just be that Stardust Crusaders is the most popular one out of
Well,
all
definitely the
of the
case, yeah.
first three. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless, it's great news that the manga's coming out. How much of it have you checked out, Clint? How into JoJo's are you?
Me, I've read parts 1 through 3. Haven't gone past that.
Okay, like it?
Yeah, I mean it was enjoyable.
Cool. All right. Well, that's that. Um, I guess there's not much else to say about JoJo's. We again, feel free to send in. We'll probably make this a bit shorter of a show since we have fewer people tonight and no really hard-hitting topics to discuss. But just if you do have some certain questions or whatnot, please feel free to get in touch with us at ShonenBeam on Twitter. But I'm going to jump to the next topic, which I know Samu is out there. Hey, how's it going? And this is something that I've seen Samu talk about, and so I'm curious. I'm going to turn this over to you guys. I may have an opinion or two on it, but I know that you guys both are big fans of Shokugeki no Soma, and I wonder what you think about something that Samu's pointed out recently, which is and by the way, we are going to get into current discussion right here of Soma, so if you have not yet read like the most recent chapters, we are kind of spoiling a couple fairly important things here, so you've been warned. But as the autumn election has progressed, as Danny did a review yesterday that went up on the site, all the different things that have happened, the food, the different dishes that we've seen and whatnot, he brought up the idea that perhaps it was a poor decision for the girls to have lost, because as it happens, the girls have lost. I don't think they've been humiliated so much, but the girls have been the ones to lose here. So once again, Clint, I'm going to have to step away for a second, but could you give your thoughts on that and if you think that's at all problematic?
Um, I kind of have had this point raised to me as well on like separate occasions, and I think people are a couple people are a little upset about it, but it's rough to see because I like the female characters, so I'd like to see more of them, and if they remained in the tournament for longer, that would kind of allow for that. But I don't think it's like a worrying sign. I don't think that in any way some go again. All the female characters are going to be relegated to side characters, and they're not going to be important. And all the important characters are male. And I think we're a far cry from that. I think we still have very relevant rivals in the form of Erina and Alice and even Megumi to an extent, who are definitely capable enough to present themselves as like good chefs. But insofar as this art goes, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see more of some of the characters. I definitely think that as early as Alice went out, that was rough. But I also think that served the point of very, very early legitimizing Soma's chance to take the tournament. Because if he hadn't defeated one of the top opponents like that, like I certainly considered Alice to be like one of the favorites of the tournament. if he hadn't defeated someone that important right off the bat, then you might not be convinced that he has a shot at the top. You might think, oh, well, for sure he's going to lose somewhere along the way. But having won that match, it kind of puts you in doubt. Like maybe he'll go all the way, maybe he'll drop out, last round or the round before. But you're unsure now, which I think is a good thing for the tournament.
Right. What is that? That's funny. Um, yeah, I kind of agree with both takes on this. I agree with you that I don't think too much damage has been done, and at the same time, I also agree with the notion that it is unfortunate that the girls have been eliminated. I think we do have to bear in mind the way they've been eliminated, though, like you say, and ultimately where they stand as characters right now. And oh, okay, yeah. I, like you, I don't feel whatsoever like they've been treated in such a way that they are just, oh, the girls were here and now they're gone and now they don't matter. The girls can't cook. Nothing like that. I think, at least in the case of Alice, and I apologize, I forget her name. I'm really bad with character names. The one who, the second one to have competed. Well, I mean, obviously Megami. I mean, that goes without question. I'd say that those two really came off looking very good because they came up against such strong opposition, or because they got to show off in such a way that you got to see that there's more to come from them. I mean, for the sake of Alice, of course, there's more to come from her because of her ties to Erina, and just the simple common sense fact that a character wouldn't be put in that situation, a character wouldn't be expanded upon to the extent that Alice has been, just for a throwaway arc, just for, oh, okay, that's it, and then she's gone forever, and we're never going to see her again. And then, of course, Megami is just going to be around forever because Megami. The one that I said I couldn't remember the name, and I apologize, is the one who most recently lost to Hayama Akira. In that case, I could make an argument that that's the one where it really stung, that no woman is going to make it out of these, I forget, quarterfinals, semifinals?
Yeah.
Because, again, I don't feel that she was humiliated, but I think perhaps, what would have been nice is if the characters were reversed in such a way. If that girl, and again I apologize for forgetting her name, if that girl was Hayama Akira, if you know what I mean, you just switch the characters. You don't change anything about what events take place. You just make this one the girl, and you make the other one the guy. You have the guy be the one to lose here. Same exact relevance to the story, same exact characteristics, all these different things. But you just change the gender there simply for the ability to be able to have at least one girl in the next round here. I don't think it's a deliberate attack on women. I don't think it's especially heinous, and I have every bit of confidence that girls will continue to matter. But I mean, I also do agree that it's a point that we need to continue watching out for. And if this is a standalone event, and the next spring election or whatever the hell the next arc, big tournament or whatever it's going to be ends up being, if that one is just dominated by women, okay, then it was one little episode and there's not much to say about it. But if we get another arc like this, and another arc like this, and another arc like this, and you're seeing the women go out early every time, then we have a real problem. And then it's actually sending a very wrong message. I'm not really willing to say that at this point we're quite at that level of concern yet, though. I don't think you would think that either, would you?
No, I think it's important to keep in mind that Hisako, that's the girl's name who lost to Hayama. Hisako is Erina's aide. And we've already been shown through Nikumi losing to Souma that Erina doesn't really accept failure from her subordinates. So I think we're kind of being set up for some kind of scene, whether or not it's her aide being dismissed or just like a light reprimand or what kind of, we're being set up for Erina character development. I think that's an important element of Hisako losing. Of course, the other element of her losing being setting up Hayama as this amazing, unbeatable character who I would probably pick as my favorite to win the entire tournament right now.
Yeah.
So I think there's all those elements going into it. I still feel like everything happened for a very story-driven reason. It wasn't just some kind of spite for women that it all occurred out of. And the other point I was going to bring up is we still don't know who the 10 are, the 10 people in seats of power. We know, I think his name's Azon, the one who hired that guy who, the tall man with dreadlock hair, to try
Subaru.
to take Soma out of the character, out of the tournament. And we know him, and we know the senpai from the Polar Star Dorm, and
Right.
we know Erina herself, who is like ranked 10th. Um, so we don't know a lot of the characters, and we don't know the top seat, and there almost are certainly some more women besides Erina in the 10 seats, and the top seat itself might even be a woman. So we can't make discriminations about the skill of the female competitors while like not even knowing who the heavy hitters are in the series.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, and I'm certainly not saying that you're saying this, we also cannot simply cast aside any concerns or the figment, the beginnings of a concern. Just at this point, some people are starting to take notice of the fact that, hey, wait a minute, that's a little bit unfortunate, don't you think? It's a little bit weird that all the women lost here, and that's a perfectly valid point. It's just, is this actually going to be something that continues? Is this actually going to be a recurring problem, or is this going to be, pardon the food-related pun, a flash in the pan? Is this going to be a one-time deal? Um, let's see. Samu, who was the person that I mentioned originally, came up with this thought and gave me the idea to talk about this. Oh, your internet died, so you didn't even catch the beginning of this segment. Yes, we're talking about Soma. It's kind of a pity. You might want to go back and catch the beginning of the segment if you missed too much. Haven't been enjoying it as much for the past 2 or 3 chapters, but Soma is so great that even with a possible misstep, it's still brilliant. Time will tell if history repeats itself. I think that's it, really. It is a misstep, but as of right now, it's a misstep. It's not a slight. It's not a deliberate attack. It's not a message. As of right now, it's a misstep. It could become a real serious negative in the future, but as of right now, I couldn't possibly say that it is. And I totally agree with your other point. It's brilliant. I love every single week, every chapter. It's so much fun. And I forget the fact. I mean, what's the most recent chapter? We're still barely in it. Soma 76. Haven't even cracked 100 chapters with this one yet, and it's way up there. I mean, for the people that I'll go on the site and follow the power rankings every week, it's at the top or it's near the top. It's right up there. It's very, very quickly become a go-to read every single week. So yeah, hope it doesn't become a pattern. Obviously, I don't think there's enough evidence to say that it's definitely going to become a pattern, but it is something to look out for at least. Good enough
The
point.
the chef, the advice giving chef for the duo writing it is a woman. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
one giving them all of their knowledge of food is a woman.
yeah.
And one little thing I'd like to tack on at the end here is that we talk about series evolving over time for the most part, and um, Soma, when it started out, people you generally made a point of it to mention that it was kind of fan service laden at points. But as it kept going, it also kind of evened out in terms of how it like doled out the fan service, whether it was of man like male characters or female characters. And as it stands now, we have. I mean, I don't really have the evidence to prove that there might be a shift in demographic, or rather, or what the actual audience for this series is in Japan. But if we look at it from at face value here, the four people that are uh, in the left in the autumn election are Hayama, Soma, Takumi, and um, uh, the dreadlocks. I forgot his name. His name is
Subaru.
actually kind of
Subaru.
right, Subaru. And three out of the five characters, more or less, could be, I guess, considered as pretty boys if you think of it in that sense. And actually wonder, how much of this actually goes into it as well. If the series is going to shift towards um, that, how is going to shift in terms of the balance that it seems to have struck in a while ago. But I mean, it's just kind of just out there that I'm throwing it out because I mean, I actually agree that the developments that have happened so far seemed a lot more story based than anything because Hayama, I mean, he has to kind of go on to probably the semifinals or even the finals because he defeated Soma in the preliminary, or rather, well, not so much defeated him as he got a higher score than he did. So he was the benchmark that Soma would have to defeat at some point, or if not Soma, somebody else would have to defeat him in order to legitimize themselves as the ultimate, challenge here. And so we don't know who's going to go up against next since everything gets randomized after this point. Um, and Takumi as well. He has something to prove to Soma. They're both rivals for the most part. In lieu of what's going on right now, he may be sent out as fodder for Subaru, or it can go the other way around, and he could be legitimized completely by defeating this guy, this really intimidating guy, who apparently has like a history to him of winning all these Shokugekis. So, considering the place that Hisako was, we talked about her being second fiddle to Erina. Uh, the fact of the matter was, I kind of see this her losing completely as her possibly, actually being in the hot seat for development later on. The fact that Hayama even told her that the way that she's been living is completely contradictory to her wanting to win, because if her sole purpose is to be second to Erina, then how is she supposed to, fight for herself? I guess in some manner of speaking, and as well as Megumi, we kind of shouldn't have expected her to go that far, but she did still, even though she lost, she still lost and had a really good character moment. She is also actively evolving as we speak, not so much waiting to get her development, but she's already getting her development. So these things seem to be happening like piece by piece, and I guess it's just probably a coincidence that all the female characters are not exactly at the highest position right now or of power. But we still have the 10 seats, just like you mentioned earlier, and there's still other characters yet to be introduced. So it might just be a spark, but yeah, it is something to look out for. But I don't believe it would become a problem going forward.
Yeah,
I think
I
you
apologize.
had a really interesting theory. Maybe like getting all the girls out of the way so that we can have straight chapters of man service for all the female fans.
That is an excellent point, though, about our initial concerns at the beginning of the series. I mean, okay, so first of all, we know coming into Soma, the first introduction, at least for me, and I know for a fair amount of others as well, to the concept of Soma. Didn't know really the author. Obviously, the support, the third person, the actual chef. Don't really know anything about her personally. But Tosh, I mean, Tosh is a doujin artist, by trade. That's where he came from, a hentai doujin artist. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But it does kind of give you some preconceptions as to what the series might entail. And sure enough, Danny, as you pointed out, towards the beginning of the series, we were seeing women in very fan service poses in these big panels. The usual fan service stuff that unfortunately we've become used to. And so, preconceptions, expectations formed pretty succinctly right there, and then they were blown away by the exact opposite, the man service, that senpai from the polar dorm being naked constantly, and all the male reaction shots at every turn. And so now we see that Tosh, and as well as obviously the actual author, but Tosh in terms of the artistic side of things, is willing to poke fun at both sides. So maybe this is just the same thing is going to happen as you mentioned. Maybe this time it's the turn of the girls to go out for completely legitimate story reasons. And I think that's an important consideration as well, is that you can't point to any one of the girls that was eliminated in this tournament and say, oh, that's ridiculous, there was no reason for them to go out. There's a reason. You may also dislike the fact on top of that the girls have all gone out, and that's totally valid. But each one of them had a completely valid storyline reason why they were eliminated. So maybe this time it is just their turn to go out, and next time it'll be all the guys' turn to go out. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still way high on this series. I think it's excellent. And if I missed another point, I apologize because Mega Ran just followed me on Twitter, and that's really cool, and I have no idea why. But if you're watching for some reason, what's up, man? Um, that's crazy. Anyway, moving on. A couple more things here that we didn't get to talk about last time, again, because we missed. Apologies once again for that. Assassination Classroom. This is slightly old-ish news now, but we didn't get to talk about it, so it's new to us. Assassination Classroom got an anime and a live-action movie. The anime, not entirely surprising. We've talked about the possibility and the likelihood of it getting an anime before, so I can get your guys' reaction to that. But a live-action movie? Did you guys see that coming?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been waiting on it. I have it pre-ordered.
Okay, my bad.
No, I mean, yeah, that's a really the anime is completely obvious. Like all of us have just been agreed that it's a matter of time. Like that series getting an anime is as natural as breathing, but a live action movie with Koro Sensei, I don't know.
It's a it's a bizarre one. That's I mean, if someone out there, by the way, if there are actually any kind of like pre-production shots of how we're gonna get Koro Sensei, if it's a suit, if it's a guy in makeup, if it's CG, I have no knowledge. So if there have been further developments, please let me know. I would love to actually talk about the details of this, but that's a weird choice. I gotta be honest. It's a weird choice. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff. I own the Calamari Wrestler, which I encourage you to take a moment right now to Google the Calamari Wrestler as a film. It's a you can look up all the details and whatnot afterwards, but it's a completely serious film. I mean, obviously there's a massive tongue-in-cheek element to it, but it's a completely serious take on professional wrestling, which is already, there's a bit of a joke there because it's professional wrestling, so it's scripted, etc. But the main character is a humongous calamari. It's a guy in a calamari suit, big foam rubber suit, calamari. There's no mention made of this. It's not like, oh, there was a horrible mutation and now you've turned into a calamari and you have to turn back. No, it's just a calamari and everyone just accepts it as normal. So I wonder if it's going to be something like that. If it's just going to be this big, deliberately preposterous scenario with Koro Sensei, where he's just wearing this ridiculous-looking foam rubber suit, and he's just there looking totally out of place, and everyone's going to treat it as normal. It's cool, though.
I mean,
More to the anyway. Go ahead.
yeah. When I heard about I kind of imagined the anime already happening, considering that it received an OVA not too long ago. The live action kind of threw me off, and also I'm wondering whether they're gonna just go with a CG Koro Sensei, which might seem more likely than not, considering how animatronics probably cost a heck of a lot more than CG. In which case, it's it's a very weird thing to think about. But it also kind of shows how popular this series actually is. The fact that such a ridiculous thing is going to get a live-action movie. We mentioned it a while back that live-action movies obviously they garner more attention in Japan than anime does by itself. So, and the fact that it's also a school-based series, it is definitely something that will be seen. And that's great. More power to Assassination Classroom being as popular as it is for the kind of series that it is. And I guess I can only see some good things happening from here on. I mean, even if the live action movie itself doesn't pan out as well as we might hope, because I'm really just imagining a lot of CG being used, considering all the things that happen in that series.
Yeah. I mean, I think the anime is obviously the big draw here. It's the big one that's going to matter to the dedicated fan base more. And if the live-action film somehow or another draws in more of an audience and brings more people into liking the series, and that because of this silly, comedic live-action film, they end up checking out the manga, they end up checking out the anime, no harm done. I mean, and the film may even end up being a lot of fun. Who knows? It's certainly odd.
Do we have word on who's doing the anime?
Yes, but Danny, you're going to be able to speak with more expertise. It's something to do with Persona.
Oh, God. Um, uh, it'll take me just a second to get the exact. Uh,
It's the same studio as Persona.
no, it's not exactly the same studio. It's the same director.
Oh, okay.
Um, that did the Persona 4 animation, and also the Danganronpa animation. It's very. Okay, hold on a
Busy
second.
guy lately with
Yeah.
Persona 4 Golden coming out right now
Hmm.
soon.
Okay, so it is the anime is going to right. So the director of the anime is Seiji Kishi, and
Okay, yeah.
so his body of work, as I mentioned, Persona 4, the animation, the Danganronpa animation. He did Angel Beats, um, he did
Right.
the Devil Survivor 2, the animation. A lot of adaptations for the most part, uh, and his style is kind of hit or miss. A lot of people, I myself didn't watch Angel Beats, but a lot of people seem to have enjoyed that series. But then there's the adaptations like Devil Survivor and Persona, which Persona, I guess, for me was also kind of so-so. Devil Survivor was bad, I guess, for me. And like generally, a lot of people seem to dislike this guy, mainly because of the way that he usually adapts things. If in the case of, like, say, Danganronpa, if you watch that anime, it kind of lifts a lot of things from the actual video game, and it also doesn't seem very well directed in regards to the way that it's the thing. Like, it's very, people joke about anime nowadays just being stills with motion. This kind of had that kind of suffered from that quite a bit. And also, he does take some odd directorial. He makes some weird choices here and there. So people were really cautious about him being doing Assassination Classroom. By which, I always take a let's wait and see approach. Even though he might be good or might be bad every once in a while, I figure we might as well just wait for the finished product before actually judging it, or going crazy, as a lot of people seem to have been doing since it's been announced. The actual like I'm at least glad that I'm kind of just glad that it's getting an anime. Period. It's also kind of difficult to not to kind of screw this one up, I guess, is another way to look at it, because the content more or less speaks for itself. There isn't too much, like, even if it were to be completely stylistically different, or if it was done, straight from the manga, one to one, it's still gonna be Assassination Classroom.
Right.
So it's just why I kind of don't have too many qualms about the anime in general.
Yeah. I mean, I think that. I mean, I don't know. It is a bit tough to say because we saw what happened with Beelzebub, for example, and I would have
Oh,
said that. I mean, I would have said roughly the same thing, maybe not to the same level. I mean, I think that Assassination Classroom, we already know that it's a surefire hit, the manga at least. So you have every advantage in the world turning it into an anime. But Beelzebub wasn't exactly, a bad choice to turn into an anime. I mean, Beelzebub had a strong fan base, if not necessarily as big or as dedicated of one as Assassination Classroom. It still had a good fan base. It had good table of contents rankings. It had good sales. And, well, unfortunately, we all know what happened to that anime, and, subsequently the entire franchise as a whole kind of dipped and never completely recovered since then. I'm not saying that the anime killed the manga, but um, a lot more benefit could have come about from that manga, and that just, or from the anime, pardon me, that never actually did. So I guess what I'm saying in a roundabout way is this Seiji Kishi and the history that he has. What do you guys think? Better or worse than Puro?
Better than Puro. Puro is poison.
hashtag anything but Piero.
Because, I mean, in that case, we're just talking. We're right now we're just talking about a director, as opposed to Puro, where we're kind of just throwing away an entire studio. So I mean, regardless of who actually directed it, hasn't really it's try as they might, that Beelzebub anime was really bad. I mean, generally when we talked about adaptation before, and Beelzebub in this case, like it adapted what it needed to. Problem with it, I guess, was we actually mentioned it too, that it didn't translate perfectly as an anime the way that and also for some reason it was it kind of came at around the time where the long shonen anime was trend was kind of over, you know, yet it still decided to take that approach. It only went, I believe it went to like 50 or 60 so episodes, which is actually still really long. And this was with filler episodes as well, which were awful as well. I mean, the art direction in it was kind of lackluster. Characters models looked really strange. And in the case of Assassination Classroom, I think really people just care about Koro Sensei. Not to say that all the characters are forgettable, but the main draw is kind of Koro Sensei, and however the students are actually handled may not hurt it too much, regardless of how it goes.
Yep. So overall, then I think just good news. I mean, I'm pretty excited about the anime at least. I mean, the live action film, it's weird news, and I think it'll be fun to check out. But the anime, I'm very very much looking forward to. So is that kind of the general consensus that we're looking forward to this?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. Don't really have much else to talk about, but Clint and I were starting to get into a little bit of Toriko discussion before the show started, so I think maybe we can kind of wrap up on that. Just recent Toriko stuff. So again, we're going to be, I don't know what level of spoilers, but just we are going to be talking about current Toriko, so tread carefully, I suppose. But we've been, I mean, just to summarize, bring the discussion up to current, Toriko is very good right now. But there was a period of time where Toriko was very bad for one chapter with that little time skip, the kind of false start into the gourmet world, where I was extremely down on that, and I believe, Clint, you were too. It's kind of stunning to me just how much it's turned around. And for any discussion, I know that people these days love to have the big inflammatory statement and the big comparison or something like that. So here's the big fire starter for this one. Is Toriko entering the gourmet world now that we're done with the really bad false start? The actual content we're getting right now, is it doing a better job than One Piece did entering the new world?
Wow, that's a rough question. I feel like for the false start Toriko had, where they kind of we thought that they kind of cheated us out of the gourmet world, where Toriko and Komatsu went there and then time skipped for 1 year and then they were back in the normal world. The payoff right now is incredible. And the parallel you would make to One Piece is that Fishman Island was kind of a snafu, sort of. Going into that, it kind of really slowed down the action. We spent way too long there. There was this whole element of we're going to the new world, and then we were kind of stuck on Fishman Island for an inordinate amount of time. But then it also had its own payoff when we eventually got to Punk Hazard, which was a really great arc and kind of, I think, was what really drew us into the new world in One Piece. So I think both series kind of had like a misstep false start, like you said, leading into a very good arc. What was a very good arc in One Piece and is shaping up to be a very good arc in Toriko. So, man, that's a rough question. Which was better?
It is a tough call. I don't know. Well, I suppose we can kind of break it down. What was the bigger slap in the face, Fishman Island or the false start in Toriko?
I want to say Fishman Island. Toriko might have been rougher for the couple chapters where it was happening, but Fishman Island went on for much longer.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning that way as well, actually, because weird as it is, I mean, everything that I was saying at the time, I think we were even saying, I seem to recall we had some shows about it or a stream, and I know I did a review for a fact on the site. And the prevailing opinion at the time was this is some real long-term damage that's been done here, unfortunately, and this is the last thing I wanted to happen. But the entire selling point to me of Toriko is the sense of wonderment and discovery and them, encountering these crazy, amazing, imaginative new beasts and flora and all the wondrous things that lay out before them in, heretofore in the normal world and then now in front of that in the gourmet world. And so to deprive us, I mean, obviously anything that we see in the gourmet world is going to be new to us as a reader, but that's not really anything on its own. You might as well just show me, fan art. Oh, here's a new thing. That's I've never seen this before. Hooray! That doesn't really mean anything. The entire draw is seeing the characters we care about, seeing them see it. We're watching them react to everything, and that's the big draw. And so now Toriko and Komatsu, after that big false start, are in this position where they're familiar already. Where's that sense of wonderment and amazement and discovery gone? But somehow or another, we're still getting it. So it's a really weird position we're in, because every once in a while we're reminded of the fact that Toriko is kind of aware of what's going on, but it hasn't completely ruined everything like I expected it would. He's still being amazed by many different things. He's seeing different things than he previously had seen, obviously. He's tackling new challenges. And you're right, I mean, Fishman Island, it wasn't that great to start with, and then it only got worse, and it got worse for a very long time. So we kind of had I think you were kind of hinting at this conclusion, and I feel the same way as what I believe you were saying, which is kind of the lowest point for Toriko was lower, and it was more concentrated in its badness, but we've been able to get over that much more quickly. Whereas the slow, painful burn of Fishman Island kind of lasts more. It kind of still sticks with me in a way.
Yeah, I still feel like One Piece could have hit this incredible high if it had gone full pace into the new world, instead of kind of tripping up over Fishman Island for such a long period of time. I mean, I think what we all expected from Fishman Island was okay, they're building up this villain he's going to be incredible, and then in the space of one chapter, Luffy and the Straw Hats are just going to dominate his entire crew with their new time skip powers. And they did that to a degree, but it took way longer than it needed to.
It was kind of a no-win situation, honestly, because if you'll recall back to old Beamcast, for example, when we would sit around and talk about what our expectations and hopes were for the future at that time, Fishman Island used to be this vaunted mythical place. Fishman Island was something that was talked about for the majority of One Piece to that point. It was this distant goal that we were going to reach at some undetermined point in the future, and it was going to be incredible, and oh man, I can't wait to see what happens. It's been hyped up for so long and so much, and it reaches that point, and I know we've talked about this on the show before, it reaches that point where you can't possibly reach the expectations. You cannot meet the expectations. You can't reach that level of hype with anything. No matter, I mean, let alone what we actually got being outright objectively disappointing. Even if it was a good arc, it still would have lacked something, simply because is that it? We've been waiting for this for a decade. It doesn't really feel like it totally paid off all of the hype, all of the anticipation that paid off, that was developed to this point. So yeah, I think that to me that's it. Toriko was a shock, but because it was a shock, I was able to get over it fairly quickly. I still think it was the wrong choice. I still wish that it had been done completely differently. If just those 2 or 3 chapters had just been deleted, just cut and don't even paste, just cut them out and tell the story in sequence from there, I think it would have been much better. But even with those chapters in there, now I'm able to enjoy Toriko massively. Whereas One Piece took quite a while into Punk Hazard before I finally let myself open up again. Okay, actually this really is going to be a good arc. Finally. I really wish this had been the first arc that we got, but alright, fine, I'm going to get back into the swing of enjoying One Piece again. Samu, asks us, Toriko is good right now. That's not a question, obviously. But what do you make of its TOC rankings dipping to nearly bottom 5 recently? Well, number one, we never agree with Japan, ever, basically. We'll
Yeah,
just never
it
want it
basic
to happen.
the exact times that they're up on something like Mundo and Bleach were down on it, and then as soon as they start hating something, we start enjoying it.
Yeah. I mean, case in point, Naruto is always near the top anytime Sasuke is featured. Bleach is always near the top anytime Hitsugaya is featured. Okay, never. When I say never, we never agree. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. Looking at the most recent issue, for example, 32, the excluding the unranked colors and covers in the new series and whatnot, the order is Soma, One Piece, Assassination Classroom. Of course, we agree there. There's no argument there, but there is a pretty divergent opinion very often between it's totally understandable between what appeals to Western sensibilities and what appeals to Eastern sensibilities. That's all there is to it. Also, we're older, and they're actually of the target demographic. We do have to bear in mind that we aren't actually the age group that is being targeted, let alone the people of the particular culture being targeted.
And what
Um,
chapters of Toriko is that ranking?
so that would, let's see, I always mix this up. I know it's 8 weeks, but I never remember if it's inclusive or exclusive. So I'm gonna ballpark it. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So anywhere between 274 and 276. Now, as to what actually those contained, I will get back to you. 274 to 6 was Bewildered, The Mist Bamboozlement, and The True Worth of the Year and a Half. I'm going to click on 275. This is when they were at in the fake town with the fake food and the fake bar, and there were all the leech heels and all that.
So yeah, I think the couple chapters that would have been ranked badly would have probably been just them traveling into the new world. I would severely hope that when we see the rankings for the stuff going on right now, like the Eight Kings and the Giant Horse King and all that really cool art that we've gotten and like the ingredient air, I hope that those chapters are ranked higher.
Yeah, me too. But I'm looking at, I'll just kind of briefly run down, finish the TOC here again, excluding color pages. All the ranked stuff: Soma, One Piece, Assassination Classroom, Naruto, Kuroko, World Trigger, Isobe Nisekoi, Hinomaru-Zuma, which is the new sumo series, that may still not be ranked, Toriko. And then you've got very little below it. Bleach is a color page below it. Gintama, Legal Rare, Kochikame, which is obviously not ranked, Stealth Symphony, and then iShoujo, which is moving magazines. And then there's other like one-shots and miniseries and stuff. So it's definitely on the wrong end of the table. It's not deep down in that end, but it's far from where it would want to be. Um, as of right now, I'd say it's probably just a bit of an anomaly. This happens every once in a while where I think independently, as like a one-off, oh wow, that chapter's ranked really low. It more often than not, it's just a case of other series getting more votes rather than people explicitly voting against something. Because if I recall correctly, the method that you vote for all these series is there's a little card, a little like postcard, and there's just like 1, 2, 3, and you just fill in, what are your top 3 series this week. I could be way wrong if they've changed it or if I just misunderstood it, but I think that's how it works. So it's not like you're saying I disliked Toriko this time around. It's just I happened to enjoy most of all this week Soma, One Piece, and Assassination Classroom. So that's not a slight on Toriko. It's just, ebb and flow. Some series are stronger than others week to week. Danny, I know we're talking about Toriko primarily here, which you don't read, but we have talked about a few topics that you are familiar with, like the tables of contents or like One Piece entering the New World. Is there anything at all that you want to chime in on here?
Well, generally, like One Piece going into the New World, you were kind of right in the way that you said that there was no way to win. Though I'd put a spin on it and say there's no way to win because they decided to start off with Fishman Island. I believe Fishman Island should have happened before the time skip, or at least not right after the time skip, because you kind of need a buffer arc, I guess, to get people back into the swing of things. And the fact that Fishman Island was lauded for such a long time as this mystical place, as this place where everybody was anticipating it so much, but it was more or less the buffer for them going into the new world for the second for like the time skip basically, and as a result, we didn't get a very believable antagonist in Hody, or at least in terms of his threat, because we kind of figured that he wasn't gonna, plain simple, he wasn't that big of a threat to carry the arc for me. He held some, emotional points. He did have a place in there, but I guess the way that everything went about it, he was kind of like he was riding off the coattails of Arlong, in the sense that he wasn't as well developed as Arlong, and he also, if anything, this arc just built up Arlong a little bit more in my head. As for why he did the things that he did, the revelation that Arlong Park was actually the Shibori Archipelago, and like that revelation was kind of a little bit mind blowing, as people have also shared similar reactions to it, and it ended up being just the crew just showing off their new powers when they could. Like it wasn't too big of a threat to them, and as a reader, that kind of took me out of it a lot when I figured, oh, they're just gonna defeat them rather easily just so they can show us what they can do, and it's like it's not going to be that exciting either. The conflict itself was everything before they started fighting, and once they started fighting, everything was kind of just done rather quickly. So I guess in all forms, right there, it really disappointed. The place itself was really cool. It just didn't have the story to back it up, or the threat, and that's kind of where all of it just like took a dive, pun intended. In regards to this whole Fishman Island starting off the new world, it's just very very odd choice, I guess. Because I mean, Oda, we know, plans these things out, and this one particular thing just felt kind of random for him to have this arc, which really didn't have anything other than the things that were coming before, and or rather the things that came after. Fishman Island kind of had set up implications for the future. What with the World Conference, and also the things that happened with Mom. Big Mom, and these are the things that were more interesting out of this arc for me. Everything that happened in the arc pales in comparison to the things that were like the implications of it, which I guess is not the right thing we should have taken out of it. So in the end, for me, it also kind of was a failure.
Yeah. That's just the thing too, is that we all knew, and we all talked about at the time. Post time skip, the first thing that we need to see is all these characters, all the characters we know, the crew members, showing off their new powers. That's it. It just had to be that simple. We need to see them unleash whatever they've, the fruits of their labor, all the things that they've been training for. That doesn't have to be a huge arc. That could have been Punk Hazard. That could have been something short, sweet, to the point, fun, and it broke up the entire sequence of how arcs were done in One Piece, of big dramatic arc followed by short sweet fun arc, and then back to big dramatic arc, going way back. That's how the series has operated for a very long time. And then we got two major serious arcs back to back with Shabandi Archipelago leading not exactly directly into Fishman Island, but pretty clearly those are the two big arcs on either side of the time skip. So yeah, I don't know. But this was meant to be a Toriko discussion, obviously. But the comparison, I think, warranted the extra investigation of this. So it shows, in general, I think that this is kind of tough to do. I mean, time skip just seems like an easy go-to option. Oh, I need my characters to power up, and they're kind of not progressing as quickly as I want them to, or as fans want them to. So, oh, I know, I'll just throw in a time skip. But it's not actually that easy at all, really. I mean, there's so many things that you have to do to combat the feeling of convenience and the feeling of this just being another cliche. And we're kind of seeing it unfold again over in Hunter x Hunter with the Dark Continent New World.
Yeah, how do we stack these two series up against the New World of Hunter x Hunter?
Yeah, well, I'd say let's save most of that discussion for if that ever actually happens. Uh, did you know Hunter x Hunter is on break this week?
This week, huh?
This week, yeah, it's taking an issue off. It's okay though because there's going to be like a special chapter next week or something like that. Oh my, I don't know.
You know,
That
actually,
man.
actually talking about time skips, it also makes me think more about Naruto time skip and the way that that was also formatted and everything. And it seems like the time skip has been used to like right before characters kind of just power up and whatnot. And then I'm reminded of the Dragon Ball time skip, which is completely different because it wasn't so much of a like we need to get stronger, so let's spend a lot of time powering up. It was more like time just moves on, and then a new threat came in later on. Um, and in that case, it kind of worked to its advantage. It because people didn't have any expectations, like people didn't really imagine that. I mean, it even showed in the series itself. The characters didn't get surmountably stronger than they were before the time skip. And that was actually the problem going forward because the characters that they were going up against were immensely stronger. And I guess in the way that it worked, the expectations for people wasn't so much how strong has he gotten, but more like, all right, here we have more Dragon Ball, which I actually kind of like better. But I mean, considering the way that these series have these ongoing storylines now, um, as opposed to the way Dragon Ball was kind of a little more disjointed events that happened one by one. It's like it kind of I would imagine it'd be hard to pull something off like that, and they would have to try to connect everything together.
You know what I have to think about here, and maybe we can very briefly touch on like favorite time skips anywhere in any kind of media, because you make a great point. I think the big problem that I have with these various time skips we've talked about is that they are so functional. It's so obvious what they're trying to do. I need my characters to power up, so let's just have a time skip. That's not really inspiring or very interesting or creative. That's just, all right, you're taking an easy way out. Fair enough. We'll pick up the story again afterwards. Oh, look, you have redesigned characters. Time for some new merchandise. Oh, look, there's this new attack. The anime studio gets to do something flashy with that now. It's so routine. But when I think about time skips that actually worked, I'm going to pull an example here from video games, not from shonen manga. My favorite time skip is Final Fantasy VI. And just in case, I don't want to spoil, even though you're kind of well past the point of expiration on spoiler warnings being a problem here. But just in case, I won't give you the actual spoiler. But there is a time skip in the middle of Final Fantasy VI, and I think it's phenomenal because it's not at all about the characters getting stronger or redesigning this or just tweaking that. It's actually for a storyline purpose, and the way that we recover from that time skip subsequently is also well within the storyline, and it's engaging in its own right. If the One Piece storyline, to pull from the example we're talking about most here, if that time skip was more about the actual journeys back for each person, not just them training on their own and then meeting up. Obviously we followed Luffy and all his antics, everything he was up to in Impel Down and all that stuff, and then Marineford and all that, which that's all fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But imagine if maybe there was a little bit less Luffy, not too much less, because again, those arcs that we saw of him on Amazon Lily and in Impel Down and the War arc, that's all great stuff. I'm not taking anything away from that. But imagine it was cut down by a bit. And then we got to see what Zoro was actually up to and his quest back. And Usopp, and he can be the kind of comic relief and everything he was doing with Heracles. And if we got more of the actual story and world context of it, rather than just it being, I need my characters to power up, I think that would go a long way in helping the situation. Do you guys think that's fair, and or do you have another time skip that you can point to as saying that's a good example?
I think that's a pretty good example that you had. I think what I like to see from a time skip, on the rare occasion that I like to time skip, was is when characters develop. Not so much just get stronger. That can be a complete side effect or not happen at all. But when characters develop through a time skip, then it feels like we've done this for a reason. It feels like this needed to happen because this isn't a change that would take place in this character, in a short amount of time. So I couldn't develop the character to this extent without skipping forward in time. It serves a very real need within the series, and it couldn't be replaced by like a training arc. Um, I think the example of Dragon Ball, where like a lot of the kid characters kind of grew up into adults, and we were able to see what they were like, and they have families of their own now, and things of that nature. That kind of development in the characters, like Gohan, didn't he didn't just get way stronger and remain the same character. We time skip forward, and Gohan has a family. He's together with Videl, and he's matured as a person. He's not a little kid anymore. So it's a very clear distinction from what happened in the likes of Naruto and One Piece.
Yeah. All right. We were gonna wrap up here, but Samu introduced a little brief topic for us, which I think will actually be a better way to end. If you're up for another topic, could you briefly discuss or briefly talk about the big three this week? Also, did Bleach have the best time skip out of them? Oof. Out of the big three, maybe actually.
I would say yes. It cost it caused the least damage to its own status quo than the other two series did. Naruto had kind of wrecked everything for the most part.
Yeah.
It's the divide is too clear. One Piece, it just came off as being a little awkward. Like the designs were kind of so, like they weren't instant classics. And Bleach, the way we did it, the way we mentioned it, kind of in relation to Dragon Ball, it's probably the most resembling Dragon Ball's, the first time skip at least, than any of the other two series. And in regards to time just went on, and we didn't really expect there to be too many changes. It wasn't, because when it came back, I mean, after the Fullbring arc, it was more, the characters were still relatively the same, because I would guess if you live for hundreds of years, a couple of years is nothing to them. And Ichigo, they kind of got him at the forepoint of his life now. He's going to graduate high school. He's a senior, but he's still generally the same character. And the Fullbring arc, I guess, was, we talked about this whole buffer arc. Fullbring arc was a good buffer arc. I really did enjoy what they did there, because they didn't do the same old thing. They also, cut everyone's expectations by deliberately having it framed as Ichigo already doesn't have any powers, so he's not going to be he's not going to like start off from where he came off or be even better than he used to be. He's actually worse, and he's trying to get better. So I guess in that way, it just helped people ease into Bleach again, even though this time skip didn't have any dramatic changes. It kind of just picked up where they left off, and I think that was just fine.
I think Bleach's time skip plays into its whole. We've talked about how it kind of reset itself. The series kind of reset back with the Fullbring arc and kind of stabilized, and I think we all attribute a lot of that to the series being good now. Like that reset played a huge portion of why it stopped being terrible from the Hueca Mundo days and became pretty good in the Fullbring arc and enjoyable. And I think the time skip was like used for part of that purpose, and just kind of like a breath, like a pause in there, is what the time skip in Bleach ended up being, and I think that was absolutely necessary. It probably, like, functionally and stylistically, played a much better part within the series than the time skips of One Piece or Naruto.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, very brief little thoughts here before we wrap up on the big three this week. For me, I'd say One Piece was another very good chapter, not quite to the heights of some other ones, but I still think it was very enjoyable. Bleach was also very enjoyable. Kind of one of the more enjoyable ones recently, actually. I thought Bleach had previously, for the last like month and a half or so, kind of fallen into, I don't want to call it a rut because it was still good, but it was kind of settled. It wasn't really reaching anywhere particularly ambitious. It was just like, oh, okay, this is more interesting action, but I could take it or leave it. It's good, but I'm not really deeply engaged into it. But this one actually, it's like, oh, okay, that now we're actually getting somewhere. The characters involved here. I mean, it was a Renji fight, for Christ's sakes, that we're talking about starting off here, and it was actually done in an amusing and comedic and charming sort of way. I think that this is the fight that Renji should have had. The previous one, that was obviously not up to the standards of the other arcs that we've had around here. But this fight, starting off, this is actually an interesting matchup. And Naruto, well, it wasn't last week. Naruto was
It
not
wasn't
last
last
week.
week.
Okay.
Boy, if we had the show last week, we would have talked about Naruto for the whole darn episode.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Naruto's chapter last week was kind of like a landmark of terrible.
It's like landmine of terrible.
I mean, I generally feel the same way. I kind of like the which is now starting to. It's actually progressing somewhere now. And Naruto, the less sad about it, the better. One Piece, though, I'm actually a bit mixed on because a little disappointed that we're going into another flashback, even if it is about Law. I mean, I do like the character, but I kind of feel like this arc is like it gets momentum, and then it decides to stop, and then it keeps going, and then it stops again. Like we were in the middle of everybody attacking the castle, and then all of a sudden, stop. Time for Law's flashback, and it's like there's just too many abrupt stops for me. Kind of just wanted to move on already. I was kind of also disappointed that we didn't get right into a Doflamingo fight. I mean, it's all just not entirely sure why it's deciding to keep going, and it almost feels like it's stalling itself a bit, actually, for me at least. And I kind of just wanted to move on right now.
Right. Clint, any thoughts on the big three?
Naruto was better, but still not anywhere near close to good. One Piece is moving. I'm enjoying it each week, and it's heading towards a conclusion. But I also want us to move along. I like One Piece when it's moving at a good clip and not staying overly long in any one arc aspect. And Bleach is also moving. I thought the most recent chapter was pretty slow for my tastes, but like a new low of things happening, sort of. But I'm still enjoying that too, so I can't really say too much bad about it.
Cool. All right. Well, I know that we need to wrap this up here. Got a few different things to do this evening. So, anything before we go? Anything else at all about Shonen before we wrap up?
Nothing here.
Nope.
Nope, everything's fine.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, and thank you for watching, obviously, everyone out there. Thank you for tweeting in, Samu. Very active tonight. Appreciate it, as always. Do check back. I expect next week we should still be here. At some point, the site will have to go on kind of like a semi-hiatus because I'm going to be moving. I know a lot of the other staff members are moving, so there just won't be enough people to actually get together to produce content. But I don't actually know when that's going to begin, so... just again on Twitter, Shonen Beam is the best way to keep abreast of everything that's going on. But as far as now, we're done for the evening. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you later.
See you guys.
Bye.